What's up, everyone? DUBS Podcast back here for another episode, the best place to talk sports. We've got the regulars Jesus, Steven, Shelly, and I'm Brandon. Let's kick it off with some MLB news. Jesus?
All right, so for the reports of MLB returning, we have heard in the past couple days about Trevor Plouffe saying in a tweet from his sources surrounding the game that June 10th would be the start of spring training, and spring training would be held in everyone's ballpark because they talked about how it would be a lot easier for teams to just be situated in their stadiums and not forced to be living in bad conditions or basically in communities that only baseball players would live in. So it's a big step forward in terms of trying to return life back to normal. And July 1st is the target date for opening day, but which I think is kind of realistic, but at the same time, we still have to play by ear and wait and see how the coronavirus cases are doing. But in terms of MLB, I think this is a great job done by baseball, and trying to rush back the game is great because we saw how the effect that basketball had with the coronavirus and how it basically shut off everything in our nation. Like, it escalated little by little until everything is like, hey, everyone has to be quarantined right now. But then again, I feel like a sport would be a great test drive to see how things would work after the coronavirus, and MLB would be a perfect candidate to be the sport to start back, in my opinion.
Yeah, again, I saw a video this morning from Jeff Passan. Again, there's no confirmations on this information. It's all speculation at this point. But Jeff Passan did said that talks were getting deep, and he expects an announcement by the end of this week regarding what the MLB plans to do and what precautions obviously everyone will have to be taking in order to bring back baseball.
I think it's also smart to start it off with the second spring training because, like we said in our last episode, baseball's not a sport you could just jump back into after a long time off, especially for the pitchers because right when spring training ended, the pitchers were just starting throwing the amount of pitches that they would do in 6 or 7 innings. So they were getting back into season form. So it's going to take some time for them to get back into that form, just the stress on their bodies, especially their arms, shoulders, all that. And then hitters, a lot of them are, keeping in shape, home workouts. I know Joey Gallo installing the little tee and net at the top in his house, which is apartment building 40 stories high or something like that. I just think it's smart for them to start it off slow so we don't rush back into things.
Yeah. Baseball. Another thing. Go ahead, Shelly.
No. I was
Go ahead.
No, talk. We love to hear you talk.
Okay. All right. No, something I was gonna say real quick was how it's gonna be a little awkward the first couple games because these guys have taken a huge break, and during the sim games and spring training, everyone's gonna be all cautious and protective of each other, not trying to throw inside, not trying to hit anybody, or during inter squads because they're gonna have inter squads. They only have 20 days to get ready for the season, and I don't know. I feel like the product at first is going to be a little because these players they're not going to be caught up with the speed and ready to jump into the season that quick. So I feel like it's going to take some time. That's why I think the second spring training is perfect because if there wasn't any spring training, it'd be very difficult for these players to get back in a groove, especially as Steven has pointed out, how pitchers have a long process towards getting ready for the season.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Shelly, what were your thoughts that you were gonna say?
I was gonna say stuff about baseball being the perfect sport for this. If you think about baseball, it's on a massive field. And it's kind of like the same thing with soccer. It's on a massive field, and there's not that many players on the field. Whereas something like basketball or football, there's constant contact. There's constant sweat and whatnot, and they're really close to each other. So I feel like baseball and soccer are probably the two sports that we should focus on getting out first with the coronavirus. But yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And transitioning for like soccer, like you were talking, I know that you're excited about because you're a soccer fan. The Bundesliga league coming back. I think. I mean, I don't follow soccer that much, but I think that's great. Little by little, we're getting some sports back, and I think that's great for the sports world because I know I'm tired of watching reruns from 15 years ago of games for any sport. Like, what happens. Yeah, they're great games, but that's the fun in sports. You don't know what's going to happen next.
Well, talking about sports that are returning, we've got the Korean baseball organization of the KBO. I was super excited when ESPN announced this. For me, I wasn't really following it. But all of a sudden, ESPN was like, "Oh, we're gonna broadcast KBO." I was like, "Oh, awesome!" So we got Jesus here who hasn't actually seen a game. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to run down the basics of the KBO and then get our opinions and maybe how that relates to MLB, because I think it's pretty interesting what the KBO does. So ESPN said they will broadcast the Korean baseball organization 6 games a week. In the KBO, there's a 144 game season with 10 teams. So every team plays each other team 16 times. As I said, there's 10 teams in the KBO. They are the Doosan Bears, the Hanwha Eagles, the Kia Tigers, the Kiwoom Heroes, KT Wiz, LG Twins, Lotte Giants, NC Dinos, Samsung Lions, and SK Wyverns. And if you notice, the teams not necessarily are by city, so like not the Los Angeles Dodgers or the Los Angeles Angels, but you got sponsors like the LG Twins and the Samsung Lions, and that's because big corporations in Korea do own those teams rather than individual or independent owners in the MLB. They have a universal DH, so pitchers do not bat, and there is a stronger emphasis on pitching and the bullpen. So this is actually a more contact league than the MLB. It's funny because in 2018, the KBO thought the amount of home runs was too high, so they actually collectively announced that they were de-juicing the baseball. So they did try to reduce the amount of home runs because they felt that they didn't like how numbers were going. I'm actually a big fan of this rule, and I think MLB should incorporate this rule. Games go to a max of 12 innings, and it's called a tie. And the reason for this is because the KBO does not have a minor league, so they don't have players they can call up for pitching wise. So this saves everyone's arms, especially in a league where they have where they focus on their bullpen a lot more than I think the MLB. That being said, fast pitching in the KBO is about 89 to 92. So the pitching speed is slower. And then I thought this was interesting. Outfielders play deep. So the philosophy is that teams would rather concede a single than giving up extra base hits. And I think one of my personal favorite rules, and Jesus, I'd like to get your take on this. Bat flips are encouraged, so it's part of the game, like touchdown celebrations. I guess I know in American baseball, when you bat flip, it's shown on like showboating and stuff. But in the KBO, it's encouraged. You're celebrating your success of hitting the ball really far, and pitchers don't get mad. It like I said, it's like a touchdown celebration. So, Jesus, I'd like to get your opinion on what you think about bat flipping in KBO.
I feel like since the KBO has already promoted that and like told every player, pitchers and hitters included, they told them already about that. I think it's great because the pitchers realize, hey, all right, this is how we're gonna get our product out to fans throughout Korea. So basically, the pitchers are in on this too. It's fine. They got a warning. They knew what was gonna happen. So I feel like it's just that mutual respect. And pitchers, I'm pretty sure they're probably celebrate too. Also, another thing I really wanted to point out, how you said that pitchers in the KBO top out around 89 to 92. I remember watching an interview with Eric Thames. He went to Korea for a couple seasons because he couldn't hit off speed. He went to Korea to play for 2 years, and in Korea, the majority, every arm out of the bullpen or just every arm in general throws a bunch of off speed because they don't top out at high velocities like the major league level. So this was where Eric Thames could learn how to hit off speed because he was going to get a bunch of reps, and he actually did. And then he he made a return to MLB, and I just wanted to point out that the style is a little different in Korea. There other things are more important, such as I also found it incredibly cool that the KBO dejuiced the balls, which is something I theorized because in 29 last season in the playoffs, the balls didn't look as juiced as they were during the regular season. I don't know if it's just me, but yeah, in the MLB playoffs, it was a lot harder to hit home runs, and the ball carried a little bit differently than it did in the regular season. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, for me, I think it's okay that the KBO dejuice their balls. I don't think that the MLB should do that. I mean, I don't know if on your idea it was less juice, but in the end, I think that the players in the MLB are just too powerful. Like they're super strong. Maybe before dejuicing the balls, you move fences back. But I think you don't do that. You don't mess with home runs because that brings attendance into the games, and it's a large revenue stream. No,
I will say that watching the game last night between the Doosan Bears and the
LG Twins.
LG Twins, right? The fence at 125 meters to center field, and that's 410 feet. So that is ridiculously far. And then especially that the outfielders play deep already, because like I said, teams in the KBO would rather give up a single than an extra base hit, like a sure single than extra base hit. And this was really interesting too, because yesterday there were some hard hit balls in the gap. I was like, oh, get in the gap, and the outfielder cut it off for a single. And like players in KBO are slightly slower than MLB. Like there's some fast guys, but the majority they're slower, so they need the balls to get in the gap to hit doubles and stuff. So yeah, I don't know about dejuicing the baseball, because some balls I thought were, oh, that's gone, barely cleared the fence, and it was really interesting just to see that.
I remember that. But I want to touch on like what Brandon said, like the first thing he was talking about the KBO, on how it's not like cities, it's sponsorships. And I remember when I was watching the first game I watched a couple of days ago, the Samsung Lions, like their helmets are advertising new phones that Samsung's selling. I don't know. It was just a weird thing at first. But I also agree with Brandon about the MLB should implement like the 12-inning tie. Maybe not a tie for me. I would say like you use what is known as the California rule, where what they do in like travel ball and then like upper like divisions is after 1 inning of extra inning play, they do it in the World Baseball Classic too. They put a runner on second to start the inning, the last runner out. I think MLB should do that because, like you said, it ruins pitching. But not only that, like you're screwed. Like say it's the last game of a series and goes 16 innings. Like you're screwed for the next series because you're out of pitching, you're out of bullpen. The players are tired, and possibly you have to travel after that. Like maybe for the MLB after 11 innings, they should. I think that's what they do in the World Baseball Classic. After 11 innings, they implement the California rule, because I know it happened when they were playing in San Diego, the last World Baseball Classic, but it saves pitching. And then I don't know if you touched on this. I thought it was the playoff format's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah.
So like if you want,
I was going to get to that. Yeah. So another thing the KBO does differently, and I think this will be a topic of debate, is their playoff format. So like I said, there's only 10 teams in the KBO, and the top 5 teams advance. Here's how it goes. The 1 seed automatically goes to the finals. The 4 seed hosts the 5 seed, and the 4 seed has an initial 1-0 lead. So basically, the 4 seed has to win once.
And the 5 seed of 3, though, right? Yeah.
No.
It's a best of.
It's a best of 2, technically. Oh yeah, technically it's a best of 3. Yeah.
But yeah, because they started.
So the KBO works in a stepladder format. So first, the 4 seed hosts the 5 seed, and the 4 seed has an initial 1-0 lead in the series. The 4 seed must win once, and the 5 seed has to win twice to advance. The winner of that plays the 3 seed in a best of 3 matchup. The winner of that plays the 2 seed in a best of 5, and the winner of that plays the 1 seed in a best of 7. This is really interesting to me, and and I was listening to I want to say it was David Kim, who is the ESPN's like
KBO.
unofficial KBO like insider, like the Jeff Passan of the KBO. But I actually don't think it was from him, but don't quote me on that. But someone said that this is actually really an interesting dynamic because the one seed won't play for like 2 or 3 weeks. So a lot of times the one seed actually doesn't win because they have, and like Steven said, it's really hard to get back into this to a sport after a break. So the one seed doesn't usually win all the time because they have that long break, and it's usually like the 3 or the 3 seed or the 2 seed because the playoffs, as we discussed last week, is all about who's hot at the end of the season. If you're not playing for a while, you're gonna go cold or you're gonna get a little relaxed. It's just part of the game. So, what are your guys' opinions on this stepladder format?
Well, I think it brings out what it destroys is in MLB what's known as the dog days. Like for the MLB playing like July,
June,
like May through July or something like that. Like I'm not saying those games don't matter, but like players just want to get past that. Like yes, the beginning's exciting and the end's exciting because playoffs, but that middle part of the year is super boring for players. And now in the KBO, it's it like destroys that. Every game's important. I mean, Brandon said like the one seed normally doesn't always win, but you still want to be the one seed because you're already in the finals. Every team wants to be the best, and I think it's interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic. I don't think the MLB should do it just because we have more teams and not too many more games, but still have more games. So I think our playoff format's still pretty good.
Shelly, what are your thoughts?
I don't think we should change anything about our playoffs. I think our playoffs are perfect. But I like what they did with this. However, the first seed going to the finals automatically, that's the only thing that I'm kind of about because like you said, baseball's a streaky sport. We've all played it, so we all know a team can go like an NFL team can go 8-8, win the wild card and win the whole thing just because they're just going to go on a hot streak, right? Same thing applies with baseball. The Nationals won the World Series last year. No one expected the Nationals to win. They just went on a streak. The same thing can happen here with the 5 seed. I could easily see that happening. But again, a 2-week break for the number 1 seed. That's kind of I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like the 1 seed should play the 2 seed, and then the 5. Actually, I don't know. That probably wouldn't work. I don't know. It's just It's
something I want to point out is the new MLB playoff format that was proposed for this season, since given it's a short season. So this would expand MLB playoffs. So 7 teams make the playoffs in each league. So that would be 14 total. That would be almost 50%, a slight less. So the wild card games are replaced by best of 3 wild card series. Playoff teams are seeded first by division winners, and then by teams with the next 4 highest win totals. So basically, the wild card teams would play best of 3 series, and so obviously the better wild card team would play the majority of games at their home. I think this is honestly people are gonna say it's not, but I think it's a great idea to expand Major League Baseball playoffs. I think more playoffs equals more revenue, better product for the fans, and more people would be entertained by a best of 3 series. And I honestly, after watching the wild card games the past couple years, I feel like it's unfair to just 162 game season, boil it down to 1 game. Bro, the A's and Rays last year both won more than 95 games. And for them to have to play a 1 game elimination, I think that's unfair. I think playoffs should be expanded to 7 teams because, as you can see, you can go back over the years and look at the records. More teams, like the top 7 teams in each league, have more than 85 wins. So a team that barely sneaking in, let's say a barely 500 team, that won't be a problem. And people are afraid that teams with lower records, this is just an advantage for them. But I disagree. I feel like it'd promote bet because there'd be more buyers during the deadline. Because last year you saw in the deadline, it was only the Astros were buying, the Yankees were buying, just the top tier teams in the AL, because everyone else in the AL was scared and like, hey, we're not going to be able to compete. But with this, it would implement more teams. It would just generate a better vibe, and honestly, it would really stand out as a good product for the average fan, and more people would be in a Major League Baseball. What do you guys think?
I really like the dynamic of the teams picking. Like they said the 1 seed would get the bye, and then the 2 seed would pick out of the bottom 3 seeds. I think that throws an interesting dynamic. That like, I obviously the number 2 seed wants to advance, right? So let's just say in this theoretical sense, the number 7 team is like the worst out of the 7. If the 2 seed picks the 7 seed with that knowledge, the 7 seed will come in going like, hey, and I know like us 4 playing for our baseball, our high school team, we were always considered the underdogs, and I would go I would be like, guys, we have nothing to lose as a 7 seed. Let's just go in and play our hearts out. And I think the 2 seed, obviously teams aren't going to doubt the talent of the other team, but like, there's that thing like, hey, we're the 2 seed, we're better than the 7 seed, and I think that will create some really fun matchups because the bottom 3 seeds know that they were picked and they had no choice. So there's kind of that little bit of a grudge, and I think that just throws a really fun dynamic into the postseason, where it's already intense as it is, but with this new picking system, I think that's going to just ramp up the intensity even more.
I mean, I want to touch on what Jesus said about last year with the Rays and Athletics being in the wild card, each winning like 90 plus games. I mean, when you said that, I was just thinking about 2018. When the Red Sox won it all, the Yankees got screwed from that. They won 100 games that year.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine winning okay, it's one thing to win 60% of your games and still be 8 games back of the team in front of you. Like, okay, that's understandable. The Red Sox were ridiculous, but imagine winning 60% of your games and then, I mean, they won the wild card, but still one game could have kicked them out, and that destroys their pitching. I would assume Severino started that game. I mean, I might be wrong, but that's what I think.
He did.
He probably did. But, I mean, they're wild card teams. Yeah, they win. Sometimes, the Giants in 2014, the Angels in 2002, even the Nationals last year. Like, wild card teams do win, but they have a huge disadvantage against them with that one game because I would assume you would start your best pitcher. That pitcher's already gone. I mean, it's just but I mean, it comes down to who's hot, but the wildcard teams have a significant disadvantage. And I just think the new playoff format with best of 3, it might make it a little worse or something. But I think you need that just because it's more games for the fans. It's already a shortened season. I just wanted to ask you, Seuss, like, was this playoff format like only for this year just because it was a shortened season, or is it like a possible like new one that they use longer?
It's just an experiment, but at the same time, we all saw what happened when I don't know, I was reading about it, but one year they tested wild cards, or I think they tested divisions, like have a ALDS, ALCS, and World Series. One year they tested it in a shortened season, and then it took them around 5 years to pass it, so then it actually be set in stone, like, hey, this is gonna happen every year. So maybe that's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to test run it here, and then see in the future, hey, is this a possibility in the future of baseball? But something I want to go back to, I feel like the selection show is a little like, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of like it's just fake drama. So
I don't know, I kind of like it.
Like,
it's not like March Madness.
Yeah, you kind of like it because you're like, hey, wow, like what if like it's the Astros and then it's like interdivision opponents, like they get a pick from the A's, the Angels, or let's say, for example, the Red Sox. What if they're like, hey, we're gonna pick the Angels? That'd be fun because it's interdivision, and like, hey, like it'll just amp up the stakes. but at the same time, I feel like that's a little like childish picking your opponent. I don't know. I feel like that wouldn't suit well for a professional sports organization. What do you guys think?
I think.
I don't
Sorry,
think
Joe,
we
go
should.
ahead.
I don't think we should. I don't. Being honest, the selection. I agree with Jesus. I think it's childish. I don't think we should ever do that. I think that seeding is perfectly fine. And I'm just
Yeah.
gonna talk about it all as a whole. I don't think we should change anything. I mean, if it's worked for so long, and I mean, I know what Steven was saying earlier about like wild cards being at a super high disadvantage. I mean, yeah, they earned that. They weren't the number one team, so they don't get, an automatic pass to the ALDS. They have to grind for it. They have to win for it. So, like, I don't think we should change anything. The wild card best of 3, I think it would be okay. I mean, I'd love it because it's more games, but, the wild card game is truly a special game. I think it's the most exciting game of the playoffs, personally, because, I mean, maybe not.
I agree. Every
It's
team's
game 7,
putting everything on the line. They'll put in 3 different starting pitchers as relief pitchers just to win that one game. I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
But the one thing that the best of 3 series would make better though is like, let's say for example you got a team that just has one stud ace. Like, hey, we can just throw, like in 2014, the Giants threw back when Madison Bumgarner was in his prime. He just threw a complete game shutout because okay, he can ball in the postseason. But I think that's not fair because, I mean, yeah, but it's just one game. You got it. I feel like 3 games would make it better because it would show who's the better team overall that can give the best chance at taking down a team in a best of 5 series. Not it should progress from best of 3 to best of 5, not from just 1 game to 5 games. You guys are following my pattern?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, you look at the NL wild card, the Brewers and Nationals. Yeah, the Nationals won the World Series. Then they should not have won the wild card game. It took an error by the right fielder, Trent Grisham, of the Brewers for them to win. And I'm not saying that they didn't. They deserved the World Series, but they didn't deserve to win that game. I kind of agree with you. 3 games would, show who's best. But that's the fun thing about baseball in 1 game series like that. The best team doesn't always win, and that's where I want to agree with Shelley of him saying like the selection was childish. I think it's true. You look at baseball's a 162 game season. You look at college basketball where they do like Selection Sunday and everything for like the tournament. You can choose teams based on their wins in March Madness. You see like a 15 seed that beat like a Duke earlier in the season, and then they won their they went on a long winning streak, maybe like won their conference. Like, yeah, they deserve to be in there. I don't think you could do that with baseball because, like I said earlier, when teams are within that dog days period, like May through July, they're not putting everything on the line. They're conserving their players, preserving their players, for like future. So I don't think you can choose a best team, like the best 7 teams from a selection for baseball.
I don't know. I see it. Like, I see what you guys are saying, but I also see it from the MLB's perspective, from the point that they understand that their audience level is low. Like NBA and NFL attract a way higher audience just because their games are more engaging. And I think from the MLB's perspective, they're trying to do something really, like, I wouldn't say radical, but like really, really new or really, really different that would attract more people to watch just because it's new. Like, I'm sure if you were an NBA fan and all of a sudden you heard like, oh, the MLB is going to pick their postseason, like I would go and watch that just because like it's new. And I think that's what MLB is trying to do here. I see what you guys are saying, and I personally love the wild card game too, just because it's 1 game play for it all. I really don't think there should be a 3-game series. I feel like you have to punch your ticket in, and after that, like, you're a wild card seed. You didn't place number 1 in your league, so you should be put at a slight disadvantage in order to win it all. But I feel that if the MLB were to implement this, even for 1 year, just to try it, I think it'd be really cool. And it would make sense in the shortened season where all the rules have been thrown out the window, and because of the circumstances.
Okay, like I see what you're talking about for, it's an exciting thing. It'll attract more people. But my view on it is that after that year, like the viewership will probably just go down. Like, because I think MLB, I don't think they need to make any more changes to the game. I agreed with I was in favor of them like shortening the time in between innings because I felt like not only like speeding up the game, but like players are more like active and like are faster because of that. And then, but the thing I don't like is the mound visits, like the limited mound visits. Maybe you should limit the mound visits from a manager, but a catcher, luckily for the Angels, we had Martín Maldonado. So like he knew he was very smart, a very smart baseball player. So he knew when a pitcher was struggling or whatever, he knew when to make those mound visits, but not every catcher is like that. You need catchers to have unlimited mound visits. Who cares if the game slows down? If you don't want to watch baseball, you don't want to watch baseball. You're not going to get millions of more viewers just because it's 2 minutes faster. I think baseball's perfectly fine, and we don't need to excite it because that's the thing about baseball. It's not this football where, people are getting, you're hitting someone legally. It's not basketball where it's like a fast-paced game, That's just the thing about baseball.
Yeah, you can't change the hardware of baseball. I don't think anyone ever should. I've seen like Mike Schmidt once. For people that don't know, Mike Schmidt is a Hall of Famer. He's a great player for the Phillies. Anyways, he brought up once in an interview that baseball should be shortened to 7 innings. A Hall of Famer said that, and that just blows my mind that he would ever say that. I've heard people say baseball needs more superstars. Baseball needs this. Baseball needs a clock. Like they need to put clocks in there or something. Like baseball shouldn't be changed. Nothing should be changed about the sport because that's what it's been run on. Like it's always been the traditional the traditionalist sport of America. Like they call it America's national pastime for a reason because it's I hate to say this word again because I said it last time. It's a lovable sport. Like people, they watch it. They don't really like cheer for a team. They go to the game to like spend time with family or something. Like baseball's just a different, like if people don't want action and like hitting people and stuff, baseball's your sport, right?
I mean, the interesting thing and amazing thing about baseball is that a team's never out of it. You see in basketball, a team's up maybe like 20 points with a minute left. It is not literally, but like 99% impossible for the opposing team to come back. In football, same situation, up 20 with 1 minute or whatever. Like you can't come back from that. But in baseball, you're never out of it. I mean, we lost this game, but I mean, when we were in high school and we were down in a game, we were losing, I think it was like 11-0, you're never out of that. And we fought back and I think made it like 11-8, 11-10, something like that. And that's just the amazing thing. Like there's no time limit because it makes the teams it gives them hope that they could come back.
Everyone has an equal opportunity that's something that's cool, that you don't have to focus on a clock that hey, all right, we only have this amount of time, we got to already start prepping and planning, which is pretty cool. Something that's not on our doc, but I still want to talk about, that I'm going to bring up right now. What do you guys think of the free agent quarterback signings? Famous Jameis, he's headed to New Orleans, and Andy Dalton is headed to Dallas to the Cowboys. I just want to point out, I thought it was sneaky smart for Jameis to head to New Orleans with the really smart offensive minded head coach that can maybe turn him into something. Hey, once learn from Drew Brees. He even quoted to saying, I signed with New Orleans because I want to learn from the best. And he's like, I want to learn from Drew Brees. And also, I think it's even better because it's an interdivision move. He's headed from Tampa to New Orleans. Like, they play in the same division. They're gonna see each other twice a year. So that's the adrenaline's gonna be. Even though he's not gonna play, the adrenaline's still gonna be there. And I don't know. I just feel like Jameis did this on purpose to give New Orleans an advantage when playing the Buccaneers. Because I mean, obviously, it's gonna be a different system with Tom and adding Gronkowski to that offense, but he was still there with Mike Evans. He was still there with the tight end. He was still there with
Chris Godwin.
with Godwin, with the majority of his offense. So I feel like he also did this purposely. So he's like, hey, all right, Tampa, I see what you did to me. Here's what I'm gonna do to you, and he's gonna head to New Orleans and give them an advantage. What are your thoughts on those free agent signings?
I agree with you. I think what Jameis Winston, maybe not in New Orleans, but what he's going to prove for the rest of his career is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't trust him. I think Jameis Winston is an amazing quarterback. Yeah, he threw the most interceptions. He also led the league in passing yards. Yeah, I mean, you have Mike Evans, who's one of the best in the game. You have Chris Godwin. But I think he still has an elite receiving core in New Orleans, and I think you might be looking at the next Teddy Bridgewater. What if Tom Brady goes down and he comes in? Shows how legit he is.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. Drew Brees goes down, and Jameis comes in and has good games, and then you see Teddy Bridgewater sign a fat contract in Carolina. Like, I think that's what he's going to prove. Andy Dalton, he's already proved that not to many people maybe, but I think he is a legit quarterback. He brought the Bengals to the playoff. The Bengals, a really bad team. I mean, you have stud players, just not a complete team, but he brought that team to the playoffs 5 times in 9 years. I think Andy Dalton the Colt, where'd he go? Dallas? He went to Dallas.
Dalton went to Dallas.
He went to the Cowboys.
I think, that moves. I don't see much in that. I think he just wanted to find a home, but I think Jameis Winston signing New Orleans is going to be big.
Yeah, I feel like the Jameis one was more important, for the future. I mean, Dallas they've got Dak Prescott. I mean, I feel like it's also a low key power move by Jerry Jones to show Dak like, hey, it's not all about you. We can just replace you easily. This is just you can replace a player any day. So I feel like it's just to give Dak just not like an aggressive message, but just like a formal message, like, hey, relax with how much money you're asking for, and hey, we can replace you easily. And Andy Dalton's not a bad quarterback, so it wouldn't be that bad of a transition. And yeah, regarding Jameis, I feel like, I don't know, this next football season, I feel like it's going to be great because you got the new look Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You got I was looking at the NFC, the Colts are good, but the NFC, you just got a lot of teams that, honestly, more than about 80% of the teams are trying to compete or trying to make the playoffs. That's what makes football so special.
And I think it's the Saints here. They've been screwed in the playoffs for the last 3 years. I think with the Minneapolis Miracle, the missed hit call, which in my opinion, it was a pass interference, but no way that receiver is going to catch the ball anyway, but it doesn't make a difference. Then you have the push off from Kyle Rudolph. But I think it's finally their year. They have an amazing team.
And then I don't know, the NFC. We got to do this another episode, but we got to do rank your NFC teams because you got the Cowboys, you got the Eagles. You can name at least 2 to 3 teams in every division that are a legit playoff team. The Panthers, even though they just added Teddy Bridgewater, I think that's a great addition. I feel like the Panthers are flying under the radar very, very much. And with
Derek Brown, he's going to do well. So,
well, returning to my KBO tangent before we kind of went on the MLB playoffs thing, which was actually really interesting to talk about. I want to talk about something that's actually pretty important regarding the KBO and also the MLB is their coronavirus precautions. Because obviously with the MLB coming back, they're not going to go. It's not going to be 100% off running. So in the KBO, there are no fans for the time being, but there are still cheerleaders, which we saw yesterday was actually kind of cool, interesting. Because the thing is that they're trying to keep the environments the same. Umpires, coaches, and bench players all wear masks, and the umpires also wear gloves. If any player in the KBO tests positive for coronavirus, the whole league is shut down immediately for 3 weeks. They do play an empty stadium, like I said, because there's no fans. And me and Steven and I believe that they're actually pumping in background fan noise from the speakers to make it as real as possible, which I think is actually smart. It's really smart because otherwise it's like dead quiet, and that's really weird. Players are temp checked twice a day.
Yeah.
High fives are discouraged, and spitting is banned.
Spitting is
obviously
banned.
Spitting is banned. Yes. So
That's
and
crazy.
they said that's the hardest thing for players to adapt to right now, or even sunflower seeds are not allowed.
Yeah.
So,
But I think in MLB you got tobacco. That would affect them greatly.
Obviously, some of these rules are
Tobacco is wacky.
Obviously, some of these rules are going to be implemented in MLB, but do you guys think this is a great precedent for the MLB? I think the rules are perfect for our circumstances right now. Is there anything you'd add or subtract from this if MLB were to take all of these into consideration?
I'm perfectly
obviously,
I like this.
Yeah, it's like something that like you adapt to as time goes on. Like there might be some unprecedented rules that'll come out later to adjust, because it's all an adjustment, because this is something we've never faced before, and like, hey, we gotta adjust. And at the same time, I really like the artificial noise, because I don't know, a long time, it was like 3 years ago where there were protests in Maryland, and the Orioles game was without a fan, and it looked so awkward.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you guys watched that game, but it sounded like you could hear every sound. Like it was just like, I feel like the artificial noise is something great done by the KBO, and I hope MLB implements that, because like, imagine like, you know how loud some stadiums are. Like Yankee Stadium is always loud.
Oh my god.
Fenway Park
Dodger
is always
Stadium.
loud. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to add on that is that like
Wrigley
Korean
Field.
stadiums, like Korean fans are diehard fans. Like, we go to MLB stadiums. Like, we're loud, but it's a different story in Korea and Japan. Like, they love their baseball, and that's why they have cheerleaders and stuff. They have songs, like legit songs that they all sing
That's like,
together. It's a
like
crazy
fight songs?
environment.
Yeah,
Kind of, I think so.
That's cool.
like if you go to a soccer game, there's that one guy, and there's these like three dudes that
the
are
Premier
waving
League.
a massive flag, and then this one guy's banging a big bong or some like big bong drum or
It's
something.
the same deal in Korea and Japan.
It's awesome. Yeah.
I agree with. I mean, I like how. I think it's interesting about the artificial like noises like pumping through speakers, because I remember an interview an online interview with Dan Straley from one of the teams. I forgot what team he was on.
I think the Multi-Giants.
Yeah. He was saying, it was kind of like, they were saying like, what are your first impressions? He's like, and his first thing was that it was weird pitching in an empty stadium, because you don't hear that crowd noise. Like, you don't hear the roar of a crowd after a hit, a home run. You don't hear it after a strikeout, a good play. But also, like, touching on, I think it's cool seeing the foreign players. They're allowed, the Korean teams are allowed, is it 4 now?
They're allowed 3. So
they're allowed foreign players
a game. But
4 on the roster or something?
I think I want to say 4 on the roster, but I know for sure that 3 foreign players are allowed to play per game, but they must play a different position. So you can't have say a foreign shortstop replace another foreign shortstop. Like you have to play a different position.
And I think that's cool. Like, I mean, they're like small players because, like, they didn't succeed in Major League Baseball. You see Dan Straley, he was on the Marlins for a good amount of time. And then I remember seeing Aaron Altherr, who was on the Phillies. And then
Jose Fernandez, who played for
Jose
the
Fernandez.
Angels.
Mm-hmm. I think it's great. Like see, oh, and then Anthony, I would say like Salandino. I think he was on the White Sox or something like that with the mustache. Yeah, I think it's kind of cool seeing those players like, because like a lot of us don't know the players on that team, and then I think it's fun hearing the announcers talk about like I remember me and Brandon were watching one of the rerun games last night, and they were talking about this one guy like, oh, this guy's probably gonna go to the MLB. Like if it wasn't, he said he didn't like his contract that he was gonna get last year, so he returned and he's gonna try to do the same thing there. Like you see these players that are possible future MLB players, and I think it's just a fun experience.
Yeah, I'd like to throw in that like ESPN hopes to create this like MLB melting pot where the KBO becomes a part of our lives as a substitute for the MLB for the time being. And for me, it's nice to see some live sports. But do you think this is gonna work? I guess I really think it will, just because it's something to talk about. And again, people have been itching to see some live sports. And there was another guy who came on last night in the telecast. He was like, you have to come in with an open mind. You can't expect MLB caliber play. But at the same time, if you take that in mind, it's just nice to see the crack of, like Jeff Passan was saying, it's nice to hear the crack of the bat, the snap of the glove. Like it's stuff that we take for granted, and now we didn't have it for some time, and now it's back. So do you think ESPN will succeed with this telecast agreement?
I think they will. Like they're on at like 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern time, but I think they'll draw in crowds. They'll draw in enough viewers. And like you were saying, like you can't expect MLB caliber play. But when you have players that like none of those players are MLB majority of those players aren't MLB caliber, like it balances out so it looks good. Like I remember the game we were watching, there is two plays that I think they're doing SportsCenter top 10, but they were SportsCenter top 10 SportsCenter top 10 plays that you'll see. Like I remember there was one like a line drive to the second baseman. He had to jump like 30 inches in the air to catch. There was a diving play by the third baseman turned into a
diving
double play.
5-4-3. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they'll make plays. Like these guys are still professional athletes that they'll make good plays. I think it'll be successful.
I also think it's great exposure for these Korean players because now they have I would argue they have an international audience now just because of how expensive ESPN is. So it's a great opportunity for them to get exposure, and say, hey, I got to play and people in America are seeing me, and that knowing that in the back of your mind, might elevate the quality of play. I'm super excited for this KBO.
Look at the Angels with Ohtani. When Ohtani came to us, we were like the most watched international, we were the most watched baseball team around the world because, you go to Angel games, you see maybe 15,000 fans there for Shohei Ohtani.
And then we got the Japanese airline sponsorship.
Yeah.
We got ramen thing. In the third inning, yeah.
And then Ipe and Shohei get their own sushi.
That's cool.
We had a family friend. That used to work at Angel Stadium, in charge of the suites, and he said within a week of Ohtani signing, there was 3 or 4 suites bought out, season tickets from Japanese corporations. So it's a revenue for the Angels too. I'm not I know I said last episode that we have great fans that show up even though our team doesn't always show up well to play well. But maybe it's because of Ohtani. But we've been consistent with that. But with Ohtani, the revenue just increases a ton.
You also saw the same thing with, I remember Shin-Soo Choo when he broke into the league. He was a blow up. I remember asking, shout out right here, Daniel Lee, one of my classmates, my old classmates. He would always say, he's Shin-Soo Choo, Hyunjin Ryu, these players, Hyunjin Ryu for the Dodgers, he blew up. You always saw Dodger Stadium filled with Ryu fans, and just, I don't know, it's cool that other cultures come into teams, come into sports, and they're well loved and they're well they're well represented wherever they go. So that's something really cool to see, and to see different cultures play together and just build a great team, a great foundation.
Speaking of cultures and expanding, the London series, that was great.
Yeah.
I don't think people
Yeah.
give MLB enough credit for that. Like, I would love to see some European baseball players. That'd be cool. Like we saw in the World Baseball Classic, we
Jonathan
saw Italy.
Scope.
Italy has a
Yeah,
team.
the Netherlands
has a
are
team.
Netherlands.
good too.
Yeah.
Like with Andrelton Simmons, I think he plays him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Israel
He
has
speaks
a
like
team.
6 different languages or something.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
I'd love, and European fans are super diehard.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen like a Liverpool game or an Arsenal game? Like the fans
Manchester.
are freaking loud. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would love. I loved that. So
Yeah,
if we could expand this game into Europe, I'd love that. Love to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, you look
The
at the NFL, like they play in London.
The Raiders.
Don't they do it multiple times a year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
And
the Raiders
then-
and the Jaguars are always out there.
And then they also play in the Mexico series. Like they're trying to expand to like get people in those like cities and countries and like even continents. Like they want to give them a different taste, like a different type of sport. Because like you see in Mexico, they're like baseball, soccer. Europe, like Luke was saying, they're like all about soccer.
And
So
football.
it's just a different taste.
Cricket too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
think about. Sorry.
yeah,
go
wait,
ahead.
no, you go.
No, you finish.
Well, no, I was
Oh my
going to
God.
transition.
Oh, so was I. So that's
Okay. Well, yeah, so
Oh my
I'll
God.
just go. So like Brandon was saying earlier, about if Korean baseball is going to be popular or not, and it probably will because people are just itching for sports. There is another sport return. We talked about the Bundesliga league and Korean baseball organization. Well, now we have the Ultimate Fighter Champion. I think it's pronounced the acronym for it. The UFC is returning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not a huge fan. I don't think a lot of us are, but like I think it's fun to watch. But it's returning Saturday, May 9th. Yes, to the Jacksonville Arena in Florida. Florida did deem the UFC and WWE as essential services for revenue, which I don't know. I mean, I don't get that, but they convinced their like government to bring them back. So, and I've heard like UFC's not like been around for in a long time, but I've heard that this night is going to be one of the most like stacked cards of all time. You have 2 title fights, first of all, the lightweight and bantamweight. I don't know. I apologize in advance if I butchered these names, but for the lightweight, you got Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje, I think it's pronounced.
Oh, you're
And
so
then
bad. Gate.
And then no. I watched a video on him. It's like Gaethje or yeah. And then bantamweight, you got Henry Cejudo. I don't know if the J is silent or not. And then Dominic Cruz. So like those are title fights. I don't know who those fighters are, but it's a title fight, so it's
a stacked
it's
card.
Card. And then so because of the coronavirus, of course, there'll be no audience, which I feel like I think it's gonna be a little weird, based on like the sounds of the game of the matches, the fights that you'll hear, like you'll only hear. I mean, yeah, you'll hear the announcers, but you're gonna hear an overwhelming sound from like the teams of the 2 guys, like the trainers. They're like yelling like what to do and stuff. There have been like they haven't like finalized it yet. The referees might wear masks, they might not. They always wear gloves, but they might wear masks, they might not. And I think they should do this. The next one, I think they should do this for every fight. But the floors might be like cleaned and sanitized in between either different fights or different rounds. I think they should do it anyway, because by the time you get to the main event, where like there's like 8 or 9 fights prior, there's so much blood on the ground. I just think it looks gross, and they need to sanitize this just in case, a fighter had like symptoms or something. But they will be checking the fighters. They will be checking for like antibody tests and the coronavirus tests, like different types of tests to see if they do in fact have the disease. But I think it should be interesting. UFC does draw in a lot of people, especially with pay-per-view. I know that I'm pretty sure it's the lightweight fight. One of the 2 title fights will actually be on ESPN. You won't have to pay. But the rest are like on ESPN Plus, like the other title fights on ESPN Plus. But I mean, I think it's gonna be a fun fight to watch, fun fight night or something like that.
Yeah, I think the sports world, as we slowly try to grapple with what to do over the coronavirus. Obviously, states are arguing over whether to reopen or not. But the sports world is something that's universal, and I think with the KBO and UFC, even the UFC has some controversy with their designation, but sports just in general trying to get back, it'll help us as a society just get back into the swing of things. I always achieve that sense of normalcy. That's going to take some time, but it steps in the right direction. I think any sports at this point is worth it.
I mean, because at the end of the day, for their designation, we don't know, like, because we don't live in Florida, we don't know
right
how popular it is there. So
yeah, I think let's go through I know Jesus is having a little bit of issues right now, but what about some hot takes with our daily hot takes?
Chill, you want to start?
I will.
Yeah, so we got to end it off with hot takes.
I've got an esports hot take. Yeah.
All right.
I hate all the people that say it's a sport. That's not my hot take. But we have some League of Legends esports news. Double Lift went to TSM, and my hot take is that this is the biggest acquisition in the history of all esports. I'd compare this to like LeBron going to the Lakers. But yes, I think this is the biggest acquisition in all of esports history. It's not going to make it the number 1 team, though. Cloud9 is still going to take the split in the summer.
I think LeBron going to the Heat was more important.
Okay, I don't know.
I don't know. We didn't talk about it too much, but I'm going to do like a football one today. I think because of the powerhouse of the NFC West, yes, I'm not good with divisions. I think because of the powerhouse of the NFC West and the losses of their team, I don't see the 49ers making the playoffs. Just because.
Damn, that's a hot take.
I think their defense is still like top tier, but people will figure out that offense. I don't see Raheem Mostert and Matt Breida as top tier running backs. I don't know. They lost their left tackle, and I think they got, who is it? It was Trent Williams from the Redskins or something. But I just, with the loss of DeForest Buckner, I don't see them doing well enough. I think they might have a winning record, maybe like 9-7 or something, but I don't think I'll get them into the playoffs. Hey,
All right. About you?
My hot take, I'm going with a little football too, but I'm going to turn to the AFC West here. I feel like the Chargers are going to make the playoffs this season. I feel like getting Rivers out of the way is a huge step forward. Change the culture. I feel like Justin Herbert's going to give them that energy, give them that spark, and the Chargers had a good roster. They made the AFC divisional 2 years back, and last season was a complete disaster.
Yeah,
finding ways to lose every single game, and I just feel like this year they have that thump, they have that energy provided by Herbert, and their offensive core is still insane. They got Mike Williams, they got Keenan Allen, and I mean, yeah, they lost Melvin Gordon, but I feel like the AFC is easier to make the playoffs than the NFC, and I feel like the Chargers are trending towards that direction. So yeah, I got the Chargers making the playoffs.
Brandon?
My hot take this week is I'm going to stick with baseball. I think the KBO becomes the first Asian league sport that has a continual television in the Americas. I think that the KBO will become a popular thing in the US, and once MLB comes back, I still think that we'll still have a bunch of KBO fans. Just the same as how when Otani came to here and a lot of Japanese people became Angels fans, I think that we'll become attached to some of these teams, and we'll want to see more of the KBO. I think it's going to become a bigger thing than we think, and ESPN is going in the right direction with this partnership.
I'd like to add on to that. Okay, it's also reasonable too because KBO games are at 2:30 in the morning. Who's watching ESPN at 2:30 in the morning?
Yeah, I know, but you got reruns. Don't worry about that. You got reruns. Yeah. I think there's nothing on right now, so they'll just retelevise it at prime time. It's like the Olympics. Olympics will happen at 1:30 in the morning, but they'll retelevise on the primetime telecast at 5 o'clock. So I think it's the same thing here.
The only problem I see with that is that because the way they're airing it now is that two announcers, Carl Ravitch and Eduardo Perez, they're I think what Brandon told me yesterday was that they're watching it being streamed from the Korean. So what he said is the camera feed that you get, that's all from the television in Korea, but the ESPN adds some graphics to make them in English, but I just don't see it being. I think it will diminish and will cease to air because I don't see how they're gonna air it with Carl Ravitch and Eduardo Perez because they work for MLB Tonight. I'm pretty sure they do something that. But
I'm not saying that necessarily ESPN will keep it going, but I'm saying just somehow it'll keep going in the US.
Okay. All
right.
That's all for today, folks. Check out our socials on Insta, YouTube, Twitter, and Spotify. Comment your hot takes below. Take them dubs. We'll see you next time.
Peace.